saw kids helping each other with this. Could you make your table groups look normal and meet me on the carpet? I'm looking for kids who are doing it quietly and calmly, and they're going to be right up here on the carpet. Table 5 did a good job. If you're eating a snack, keep it at your tables. Don't bring it up, please. In the group and on the carpet. So there is plenty of room for you all to be on the carpet. We don't need to be spread out so far. Edgar, scooch over. Next, Asleen. Asleen, scooch over just a tad. Today's lesson is a lot about observing things and noticing patterns. And there's a lot of different pieces I'm going to try and keep track of here. We're going to be down on the carpet for a while, then you're going to go back to your seats, and we're going to come back to the carpet for a little while. So yesterday I was telling you, because we were looking for the patterns in base 10, or in multiplying and dividing by 10, right? All eyes looking up here. I'm going to wait for all of you guys. Hi. Okay, so we were looking and we noticed all these wonderful things about when we're multiplying by 10 and dividing by 10. And then you're just practicing that a little bit in your notebooks. And then today what we're going to do is we're going to extend this a little bit and be thinking about 4th grade. Oh, isn't that nice that something you did in 4th grade really matters in 5th grade? Huh. Isn't that shocking? So surprised. Okay, so last year you guys did a whole unit where you were talking about something so cool and you built something. You built this giant wall called the Great Wall of Base 10. Yes, I know it because I remember being in Mrs. Donaldson and Mrs. Zarati's room, and I remember seeing this kind of giant mess of things that you guys created. Oh, that! You remember this?
Yes,
Okay, wait. You're all starting to notice some things already. You're already saying things like, oh, that's da-da-da-da. I noticed that, which is our sentence frame that we're really focusing on today. Just take a look at it because 4th grade was a while ago now, okay? You haven't looked at this for a long time. And when you notice some things or remember some things, I want you to give me a thumb, just quietly on your chest. Everybody looking up there. It can be a really simple noticing. It can be a really big noticing.
I did this when I was here or in Emerson.
Oh, okay, so you missed this lesson, Patrick. Okay, that's okay. That's why we're gonna notice it right now and you're gonna catch up, okay? I'm looking for kids who are noticing things. Oh, see, almost everybody has a thumb. If you notice one thing, that doesn't mean stop noticing things. You might notice 20 things. That's fine. When I say turn and talk, I want your bodies to face the person and I want you to make sure that you take turns turning and talking. Help each other out. Remember how to be helpful in the turn and talk. Ready? Go.
And they're doubling their how do you
How did you count it? What? Did you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20? Or did you count like 10,
It looks like
20, 30, 40. If you do 40,
But then if you break the 100 up, it's 10.
You're tough.
Last year we did like that, and there were like a 10, small 10, or
Okay.
that.
We could probably have that conversation for like 10 minutes, just talking all about all the things you were noticing. There are lots of cool things. During this conversation, I'm gonna just kind of try to record things, but I'm gonna trust you guys to clarify the questions. Please don't talk or start talking if you get called on. Don't start talking until you have everybody's eyes. Okay, that's up to you. Patrick, I'm gonna let you start.
This is pretty much what Edgar did, and then I noticed it too. Edgar noticed that there was like 100 blocks, maybe, because he counted on the side, like how many there were on the side, and then he went over until he got to the end. It was 100. Jesse?
I agree. And then I'd also like to say that if you start at the little one thing, or one piece, and you times that by 10, then you get the tiny strip, then you times that by 10, you get the kind of cube, and then you times that by 10, then you get a big strip, then you times that by 10, then you get the humongous. I think it's like 10,000.
This is kind of going back to Patrick's, because I have a question for him. What mat were you talking about?
The really big one.
The mat?
Yeah,
The
wall.
Yeah. I would disagree with you. Can I come back? I think the small, like, single square is the 100, and then the big wall, like the mat, I think?
No, there'd be 100 of the 100 cubes.
Oh, because then there's also like, I thought you were talking about like the tiny single square. I think that big wall is maybe 100 now. I'm still trying to figure out how many could they have.
Did you call somebody who was wanting to build on?
Madison. I didn't see what Jesse was doing. It's kind of like going back, like, kind of like what I said. I was like, if you go back, it's like subtracting kind of, like it's going, subtracting 1, subtracting 10, subtracting 1 again, and then it's subtracting 10, and then it's going to the mat. And then it's like, and if I said if you break the mat up, you would go like, like you would go like, so you would minus that 10 right next to that mat, and another 10, and another 10, and another 10 until you get to the first 10.
So you're seeing it subtract 10?
Uh-huh.
Did you call on somebody?
I agree with you, but like I think like I have that answer to Macy. For the big one, I think it's 10,000 because since the strip was 1,000, then you times 1,000 by 10, and that would make 10,000.
So you think this is 1,000? So you think this is 10,000. Could we go back to what Madison said about minusing 10? Does anybody want to build on that or have any thoughts about that? She said, kind of like what Jessie said, where it's multiplying by 10, but when we're going backwards, it's like we're minusing 10.
Sam wants me to
Could you-
repeat one.
Okay.
Um,
He wants to repeat it, I think.
No, I wonder if you can explain it a little bit better.
So kind of like what Jesse said, like, but he was timesing, like he was like timing 10 and timing 10 and timing 10. What I did is I minus 10 from the mat, the big 10, the big one, and the small 10, and the small one. And so I went from the mat to the 10 to the 1 to the 10 and to the 1. And I said if you broke the mat up, you would go like from the 10 to the mat, and you would go like 1,000, like, and you would go like on and on and on until you get to the last, which is like the very first one.
That first unit piece.
Mm-hmm.
So she's using those terms she remembers from 4th grade, where this is the unit, this is the strip,
Mm-hmm.
this is the mat,
Uh-huh.
and then this is the strip of mats, or a strip mat,
Yeah.
and this is a mat of mats.
So what you're saying is that you are minusing 10 from the mat, and are you sure you're
Go
not
on.
dividing it by 10? Okay.
I'm kind of looking at it, I think I see what she's doing. She's not like minusing for the first 10. She's from Great Wall base 10. She's not minusing 10 units. She's minusing 10 of the strip mat. And then the strip mat, she's not minusing 10 of the units again. She's minusing wait. Wait. She's 10 of the mats, but I don't. It doesn't sound right. You would have to minus 9 of the mats to get to that mat. And then what she would do again is then she would minus 9 again. And then
Okay, so what I'm hearing you guys, there seems to be a lot of hand motions around this. She used the term minus and about going backwards here, and it felt like she felt like she was minusing 10 to get to this. And I think she's noticing a pattern with 10s, but I think the term minus, she's noticing it's getting smaller. And so she's using that term minus, which is a really smart term to use. She's thinking about getting smaller, but it's actually not quite precise. Because we're not subtracting 10. What are we actually doing? I heard a couple of you, Samuel, you said, are you sure you're not dividing by 10? So we took this, and we're actually dividing it by 10 to get here. And I heard most of you say that, and it's important to be able to clarify that. Madison, if that doesn't quite make sense now, we can go over it a little bit later, okay?
Okay.
All right. Here's my next question for you. Oh, I was supposed to talk about these numbers too. There's so many things we have to talk about this because there's so many awesome things I want you to know about this. Okay, so I want to go back to when kids were labeling these numbers. They said this was 10,000, this was 1,000, and this was 100. This was 10, and this was 1. This is gonna get messy, and then we're gonna make a poster of it that makes a little bit more sense. So this right here, if this is 10, and Jessie noticed that this is multiplying by 10, then this mat right here is actually 10 of these. How do we write that it's 10 of those? How do we write that it's 10 of those?
You probably have to write 10 times 10.
Oh, you'd have to write 10 times 10. Okay, and this is how many of the 10 by 10s? So we have the 10 by 10s, which was our mat, and then we multiplied that by 10 again. Okay, and then we have this 10 by 10 right here. So this, to make our 100, right, our 10 by 10, and you multiplied it by 10 to get the strip mat, and then what did you have to do with the strip mat to get this? Multiplied it by 10 again. Ooh, that's a lot of equations. I want to teach you guys something, but I'm going to need you all looking up here because we're going to use this throughout the year. So I want your body sitting up. Show me that you're alert and paying attention. Because in this classroom, we don't lie down. It's not nap time. It's going to make me tired. Okay, there's a way that we can write this. It's called exponents. Everybody say that word, exponents. Exponents are a way, when we're doing 10 times 10 times 10, and we're writing times 10 over and over and over again, 10 times 10 times 10, or even 2 times 2 times 2 and 2 times 2, over and over and over again, we can shorten it up. So we can shorten it instead, so we have 10, but we could, instead of writing 10 times 10, we could just write it as 10 to the second power, an exponent of 2. That just means 10 times 10. So how would I write 10 times 10 times 10 then? Adrian.
Can I write it on the board?
No, you can tell me.
So 10 times 10 times 10 is you add now 2.
Okay, so I'd have the 10, and instead of a 2, 10 times 10,
4.
how many?
4.
10 times 10 times 10.
2. 3.
3. What about 10 times 10 times 10 times 10? 10 to the what power?
4.
4, I want to show you something, and then I'm going to ask you to think about this. Everybody take a peek over there at our cupboards. Take a peek. I'm coming over here. Whew. Notice in our place value chart, you may have noticed these before but didn't know what they meant. So here the hundreds, or that mat, is 10 to the second power, which means 10 times 10. 1,000, the strip mat, is 10 times 10 times 10. So we went 10 times 10 times 10, 3 times. And this, the 10,000s, the mat was 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. So it's to the fourth power. Okay, one more turn and talk. Are you listening? Okay, I want you to imagine, what would this look like? So here's our unit. There's a 1 right here, right? What would it look like if I moved to the right? What would the next couple things look like? Give me a thumb when you have an idea of what they might look like. Okay, turn. And talk.
No, it doesn't say 1 times. It says 5 times. Oh yeah, it says 1 times. No, it says 0 times.
No.
Oh.
That way? Would it be like the shape of a strip, or would it be the shape of a mat? Strip. Can you think of
One bag would equal to what is this?
I'll go to the right, then you might go to the 110, go to the right again, 100, go to the 10.
All right, are you ready? Eyes up here. Not going to ask for predictions. I'm going to send you back to your tables and we're going to talk about this. Okay, so we've got these little masters here that you can take where it shows this is a map, okay? So we know that this was our unit piece right here. That's our unit. Well, if I moved to the right, what's to the right of the ones place? Hallie?
Negatives.
Look over there and replace one. What's to the right? The decimal. So that what place value is that? Right next to the decimal. Who knows that? 1/10. So what would 1/10 look like? 1/10. What would 100th look like? How would I continue to show those pieces if I were to go to the right of our Great Wall of Base 10? I'm going to send you off with these, and you and your table group partner are going to work together to think through this, okay? I will pass out scissors in a moment. As soon as I give you one of these, I want you to go back to your tables and work with your table group partner, okay? I'm looking for helpers.
What are you cutting out?
You can cut things out, you can draw, you can explain, whatever makes the most sense to you. What is coming to the right of our unit? I want you to work with somebody at your table group. You can choose Edgar. Go back to your table group. Go work with Simula, please. Friends are done. I could have passed these out quicker. Go, 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 go. In a speed. How you keep one? Yeah, okay. You might want to change your idea. I don't. Here. I want you to be productive, and sometimes when we have all these materials out, it gets unproductive. I'm waiting for all eyes. Some kids are still touching materials instead of looking at me. Okay. How long do you think this should take? Yeah, some of you are saying 10 minutes. I'm thinking really more like 5 to 7 minutes. So I'm going to set the timer for 7 minutes. That is the most time I'm going to give you. Actually, I'll set it for 5, and then that'll be my warning to you. And then when that goes off, then you know we're about to have a discussion again.
Right here, what?
Just one minute.
We have one tucked right now.
Right here is just a unit.
So then what, so if this is a unit, if this is 1, where's your pencil? Okay, if this is 1 and I were to cut this out,
Because you divided
in
that.
fact, let's cut it out.
And then you would have to divide that and make it fit. up there in the decimals in
Okay, so we've got our 1. Christian, hello. Okay, how would I find 1/10? What would 1/10 look like? So just take a look at this piece. How am I going to find 1/10?
This is only 1/10 because if you go by this just one unit, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is one slip.
You're right. It is 1/10 of this line right here. But if this number is 1, in fact, let's say this represents $1. Okay, that represents $1. How do I make it represent 1/10 of a dollar for a dime? What would you have to do to this to make it represent 1/10 of a dollar?
You could write inside of it.
No, but that's 1. It's not 1/10. I just told you that's a whole dollar.
100.
This whole thing is $1. What does 1/10 of a dollar look like? Oh, Christian, did you hear what Jose just said? What do you mean, Jose?
10 would be $1 and 1/10 would be a strip.
He said 10/10 would be this whole thing, so 1/10 would be a strip of it. Cut it and show me what that looks like. Show me 1/10 using your scissors. This. Here's the dollar. Show me what 1/10 of it is.
If you just pretend that this is a whole,
That would be really small.
pretend this one.
There it is. Ah!
10.
Okay, what about 100?
So if you divide it by 10, 100, it would be this much. It would be right here.
No.
This is 9 pennies.
No. I said 100. So like a penny. Christian, a penny of this.
And so if you divide by 10,
What would I do to this to show me a penny? If this is 10 cents, how could you show me what a penny looks like?
this one.
Yeah, I know this is silly, but it matters. Holy cow!
That is really funny.
Okay, but that's really important. Can you please put those right there? Thank you.
Per person,
That's
it seems
okay,
like
honey.
a 5. Seems like a 5.
We're gonna have a conversation about it in about 20 seconds. Do you guys think you could talk about this? Because it was kind of hard, wasn't it? Okay, do you think you could talk about it as if, like, do you think you understand it enough to share with the class what you did to this? Because I didn't tell you how to do it. Jose said, oh, it would be like 10/10 is $1. So 1/10 would be a strip of it. I liked those words. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys, I said 5 minutes will be the warning. In 2 minutes, we're gonna come to the carpet. So maybe start practicing with your partner. If I were to call on you to have you come up here and share, what would you and your partner say? Can you help each other figure that out? So I'm gonna give 2 minutes to practice, and then we'll be back on the carpet. You did not bring a water bottle?
So this word that we have here represents money, right? Like when you think of So this whole thing is like this piece blown up.
That's what I was saying.
So then if this is 100 now,
You know what? What's so interesting is that you decided that you didn't want to think of this as one unit. because it's so small. So did you decide that this would be 1 unit so you could find 1/10 easier and 1/100 easier? Really nice. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have you explain that after we talk about on this. Like if this is 1 unit, I need to know what 1/10 of this would look like and what 100 of that would look like. Then later we're gonna switch it. And this is gonna become the 1 unit, but I don't want the class to know it. We're gonna switch it. So cool that you kind of anticipated that.
I think they'll get the point.
That means you're comfortable with it. It's gonna throw some kids off because they're gonna look at this and they're not gonna see 1 unit, they're gonna see 100. You know why they're gonna see 100? Because there's 100 square units in there. Okay, but we're gonna have to train everybody, and you guys can help me with this. We're gonna have to train everybody to now see this square as just one. Sure. Okay, and that's the hard one. That's today's class for most people. Okay, so as a helper and as somebody who cares about how everybody else does, then you can help us with that, right? And explain your thinking and why you would choose to call this 1 unit instead of one of them. Okay. But you still call this
If it's
What do we actually do in the house of that?
what?
I know this is really hard to stop in the middle of something. I want you to leave everything at your tables and come join me on the carpet. Yes, please take them carefully in your hand. Okay. Carry them carefully in your hands. Almost everybody is ready. Put it down. I didn't ask you to clean up. I don't want you to clean up right now because we don't have time for it. Put your pencil down. Thank you. Okay, are you guys ready? I really need you. I know this is a long lesson and there's a lot to it, but it's so important that you're listening right now because this is going to be kind of the foundation of everything that happens in this unit. That means for the next few weeks, as we're working this out, today's lesson is going to be the most important thing. That if you're struggling with today's lesson, it's going to be hard to understand the other things. Okay, so we need to work together as a team for all of us to understand this piece. Okay. So what I just asked you to do is to zoom in, and I gave you a mat. Okay, I gave you a mat. And the mat looked like this. That was our mat. And we already know that with this mat, I could, here I'm going to zoom out again. I need my scissors. That mat represents how many? 100. We call it a mat because it's a square shape. And then we know that this one column of it represents how many? 10. Okay. So there's my 10. It is a strip, right? So 10. I'm not going to write strip. It's too small. And then we knew that one of those little squares represents 1. And then I asked you to think about, well, what would come next if we were going to the right? First we thought negatives. A lot of times kids think that it's going to be a negative if we're moving to the right of the decimal point. But actually, it's just the fractional pieces or the decimal places. So then I was talking with Jose and Christian, and they had this like beautiful aha moment that I want them to come up and share. We're going to listen and be ready to ask questions to them. So Jose and Christian, will you come up and share what you came to? Hey Christian, will you take the strip off, the strip of 10?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Jose, how did you figure out what to do?
I figured out what to do because you asked us if it was $1, so I cut a strip of the unit, and that made 1/10.
Can you show us where that is and put it right to the right of the decimal? Keep it on the black though, just move it closer to the paper so we can see it in order. Okay? Okay, and then what did you do?
And then cut a piece off of the strip, which made it very small.
Okay, could you guys please turn and talk about what you're observing about moving to the right of the decimal? Turn and talk. This reminds me of your little frustration yesterday. Remember you were just staring at it? I don't think we can divide a
So
fraction.
what I was just saying is that I noticed when you move to the right of a decimal, you can only 5/10 first, and
And how did Jose just show you that you can, like, how did he answer your question?
using like I think it's a 1 unit,
Uh-huh.
and like he cut them up.
Mhm.
So then he made like a strip kind of version of it.
Uh-huh.
And then he took that one strip kind of version, and then he cut that into
Yeah.
and made it so it's like super tiny.
Yeah. Okay, so then your question yesterday, which was so hard for you to divide something by 10 and move everything over further and further and further to the right of the decimal point, you were like, I don't think we can divide a fraction. How can we divide something that's so small? And now you're saying, oh, we can just take that tiny piece and cut it into even tinier pieces. Could we continue doing that, you think?
Yeah, but eventually you probably need a microscope.
Totally. Okay, wrapping up in 3, 2, 1. All right. Hopefully you had some time to process this. I'm not going to call on kids right now because we need to move it forward a little bit. And this is a big lesson, like I said. So I'm noticing that these pieces got really, really small. And Caleb was frustrated yesterday when we were dividing decimals by 10 because he was frustrated that, like, about the question, can we actually even just divide a fraction? And we saw that Jose and Christian they kept dividing these fractions into a tenth, into a hundredth. And they could potentially keep going, but Caleb just pointed out you'd probably eventually need a microscope and like different tools than our school scissors. Okay, go ahead and sit down. So actually, we need to do a little renaming of things because using these, if we're talking about decimals, and decimals are using these tiny little pieces, that's not a tool that we can actually use very easily, is it? Okay, so actually we need to do something, we need to change some things a little bit. So I'm gonna rename the Great Wall of Base 10. Are you ready for this? Okay, so the Great Wall of Base 10, we used to say that this tiniest piece right here was a 1. We're not gonna call that our unit anymore. We're gonna say 1, oh thank you. We're gonna call this piece our 1. This represents 1 now. Okay, so then what does this represent? No, this is 1 whole.
That's 10.
This,
10 holes.
10 holes, thank you. What does this represent?
100.
Okay.
100 holes. Wait, then what would the smaller ones be?
I'm gonna You guys are so excited and I love it. I need your eyes up here because some kids might be getting confused right now. And it's okay if they're feeling confused because this is a lot of information to take in.
I'm most okay.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's okay, Madison, because we're gonna work together to understand this better. Luckily, we have tools that match this. Okay, so this is no longer, we're not gonna call this 100 anymore. What are we gonna call it? We're gonna call this a 1 unit. So this is our unit piece. Okay. Do we have a 10 piece anymore? No, we have to build it out of these. So then, what do we call this thing?
10.
This was our strip, and this was our mat. So now this right here represents what?
1/10 of a unit.
1/10. We're gonna call it, this is a funny word, we're gonna call it, since it comes after the decimal point, and it's in the shape of a strip, but it's not a strip, we're gonna call it a striplet. Who came up with these words? I don't know, I'm just following the curriculum. Okay, and this teeny tiny little piece right here, that's 100. I'm gonna write it as a fraction too. We're gonna, you know what we're gonna call that?
A mini striplet.
Nope, it's in the shape of a mat, but it's smaller, so we're gonna call it a matlet.
What the heck?
Okay,
Why?
the only reason, are you listening? The only reason we're using those terms is because it's gonna help us know what pieces we're talking about, but it's really 1/10 and 100. Now we're gonna practice that. I need your desks clear. Quietly go make your desks clear and I'll give you the next job. Go. I don't want anything on your desks. Make a pile of your garbage. Who am I looking? Feel free. Nice teamwork. Thanks for just making a pile rather than taking the time to throw it away right now. We have too much to do to worry about that. Plus Miss James, she's got it covered. Okay. Thanks, Holly. Thanks, Zach. Thanks, Holly. Okay, ready? I want to remind you of what this is now. Is this 100 anymore? No. What is it? 1. Everybody, what is this? 1. Okay, so to remind us that this now represents 1, I'm going to go over here to our ones place, and I'm going to stick it up here. Ones. This is now 1. It is not 100. Oh, because I put a little Velcro on the back.
Oh.
Okay, is this 10 anymore? No. This represents 1/10, so it goes right here. And is this 1 anymore? No. It's 100, so it goes right here. This is kind of your little cheat sheet so that you remember what they represent. Okay, let me give you directions so you can get started. Because I don't want you sitting or listening anymore. I want you working. I'm going to ask you to build some things. I'm going to now ask you to build 9/10 and 21/100. I want you to build with your partner 9/10 and 21/100. Thank goodness for our little pieces here. Remember with these, Adrian, eyes over here please. The lids come off. They go underneath so that this doesn't slide around and this lives in the center of your table group. Do not be a hog. I want everybody, every person, even though you're talking with a partner, to be building their own 9/10 and 21/100. 9/10 and 21/100. Build it. Yeah. Where's the 10? Oh, so 9 tenths and 21 hundredths. So Nate, I want you to do this with 10 9 tenths. Where's your tenths pieces? I get the one of your pieces. We're not using those today. 9 tenths and 21 hundredths. That's 1. That represents 1. In fact, get something, and I want you to make you your own little bag.
And there's gonna be another 10 that goes into that.
Okay. You guys are not allowed to write on these, but I'm gonna write on this one. I'm gonna put this in a bag for you. Okay, that represents 1. Now give me a 1/10. Yep. This represents 1/10 or 1/10, like that. Okay. Give me 100. 100. No, not 100. That's 1, remember. 100. 9 tenths and 21 hundredths. Little pieces. Those are hundredths now. So this is your little sheet that I want you to remember, okay? So we can read this as 1 over 100. Or decimal 0.009. Okay, you see that? So if I said I want 9 tenths, I want 9 tenths and 21 hundredths. 9 tenths and 21 hundredths. Where? Where's your 21 hundredths? No, 21 hundredths. So what does a hundredth look like? If this is 1/10, 9 tenths, what does a hundredth look like? No. So if this is 1, this is 1/10. What does 100th look like? Ah, this is a 100th piece. See, I even wrote it here for Nate. So you need 9 of these and 21 hundredths.
It looks like there's more than enough.
Patrick, I want you to build it and help Nate with that as well.
That you don't need.
Okay, so I see. Can I move this because I feel like it's getting in the way of that one? Okay, so we're really 21 hundredths.
So I was thinking about 2 tens with the 1, and we can add 1 more 1
Okay, I'd like to do this because I think it will be really helpful for you to see, and I don't want to carry all these pieces. Oh, some kids are touching their manipulators. How do I feel about you touching manipulators after I blow the harmonica?
Frustrated.
Yeah, I don't feel good about it. Okay, there we go. Adrian. Let me see your smiling face. Oh, there it is. Hi. Okay, I need you to think about how you're going to do this. But we're going to come around and I would like to look at Harley's. Harley built it exactly the way I was hoping somebody would build it. Okay, are you ready? Come over to Harley. Huddle around without bothering other children. Good. Harley built it in a really important way. I said I wanted 9 tenths and 21 hundredths. Let's take a peek at what Harley did. If you can't see, there's space right over here by Asleen. Okay. Harley, tell us what you built. Show us where the 9 tenths are. Can you count them for us? Oh wait, instead of saying 1, will you say 1/10? 9 tenths. Okay. And then what did you do?
And then I used one, like the little thing.
You mean instead of 1, can you call that 100th? Good. You used a 100th. And then what did you count out?
21 of them.
Could you count them for us and count 100th, 200ths, 300ths? I know it seems kind of silly, but I want everybody watching what she's doing.
200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1000, 1100, 1200, 1300, 1400, 1500, 1600, 1700, 1800, 1900, 2000, 2100.
She did exactly what the directions said. But here's what's fascinating about this table group. I'm stumped because over here we've got Harley who did 9/10ths and 2100ths. And what in the world is happening over here?
Tenths.
Say more about that, Jose.
So basically, everybody tried to do that, but there wasn't enough tenths. And
Oh, so you just built a different number?
Well, I think it's more equivalent.
Oh, so instead of building a different number, you're saying you think it's equivalent. Well, prove it.
Right here,
But there wasn't enough for all of them, honey.
right here is the 2 strips in 1 unit, which is the 2100ths.
Wait, count the 2100ths for me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay.
That's 20 in 1.
Well, where's the 9/10ths?
Right on here.
Where?
Right here.
Where?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Wait, just a second. Are you counting the hundredths or the 9/10ths?
The tenths.
Okay, well, so where's a tenth? Where's 1/10?
1, 2,
Oh, I see
3,
what you're doing.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay, he was pointing to these squares. I think what he was actually doing though is counting this as 1/10,
Yes.
2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he said this is equivalent. Do we see how it's equivalent to what my friend Harley did? Okay, so how do we see the same thing in what Harley did? I want everybody to be looking at that and give me a thumb when you see the same exact thing from what Harley did and how you can prove that it's the same. Okay, find somebody you're standing next to and turn and talk. How can you prove that that's the same? I'll listen in
plus 11 hundredths get like the same as Harley. So what you're saying is that if you have
wrapping up in 3
9/10ths, then that is 2 100ths, and then you add 10.
1.
And you get
Okay, Kylie and Harley are working something out. What were you guys thinking? Do you guys believe that it's equivalent? That means it's the exact same, even though it looks different. Do you think it's equivalent? How? Reagan, I haven't heard much from you today.
It's equivalent because with like Jose and Christian, they just took from the 21 and added it to make a 10, and then they had the
Wait, they took 1 from the 21 to make a 10th? Not a 10, a 10th?
they took 1 of the 10 tenths to make 1 whole.
Kylie, are you seeing that right there? How?
I was making this. I was gonna build 1/10,
Uh-huh.
and that would be 1 whole, and then
Keep going. Keep going. Let's watch you do it. Okay, so you just built a hole. Go ahead.
And then I was gonna make 10. And then there's 10.
So 10 of the hundredths made a 10. I'm sorry, my harmonica. It's a dangerous tool. Oh, what? Look, it does look equivalent. Cool.
You want me
Okay, let me give you directions really quickly. I love what Harley did. She built it exactly. If you need to build it exactly because this is hard for you, that's okay. Build it exactly, and then I want you to do the trade-ins to see what is the least number of pieces you can use. So I'm going to give you another one. Build it exactly if you need to, and then figure out what is the least number of pieces you need to do. Ready? Okay, so once you're at your seats, look up here. I'm going to give you the next one. Patrick's ready. Rain's ready. Oh, Edgar's ready. Okay, you ready? Yeah, you're ready. I've said ready too many times. Are you ready? Are you ready? No. Okay. So when we built 9/10ths and 21/100ths, the least number of pieces we could use to do that was 1 unit, 1/10, and 1/100th, which means that we built 1 and 11/100ths. That's that number there. So there's a decimal right here between the units and the tenths. Okay, see what the least number of pieces is that you could use to build 1 unit, 5/10ths, 10/100ths. 1 unit, 5/10ths, 10/100ths. You can work with somebody at your table group. Go ahead. So this is like your thing that you need to use. Okay. So it says 1 unit. That's one of these. So put these things away. Okay. And take out 1 unit and put it right in front of you guys. Let Nate do it. Nate, take out 1 unit. Okay, put it right here. Yep, perfect. There's 1. And then it says 5/10ths. This is what a tenth will sound like, so take 5/10ths. You can use these too.
Okay, do it.
Okay, is that 5? Okay, and then it says to take out 10/100ths. Patrick, can you pull over 10/100ths? Let's put these together. 4, 5.
So I'm looking for yours. Yeah, I'm looking at
Okay. So now we have 1 unit, 5/10ths, and 10/100ths. Is there any way that you could trade in any pieces and still keep it equivalent but use less pieces? Wait a second. Less pieces, so not more pieces. Could that make a whole unit if we push those together? Okay, Patrick, you did that really nicely. You just pushed these away, but how do you know that all these together makes this? Use your words and tell me. 3/100ths, 4/100ths. 10/100ths. Okay. Talk to these girls and see if you guys got the same thing.
Did you get the same one? Well,
Prove it.
it says you get 1 unit, and we got it out. And then we did 5 tenths here, and then it says get 10 hundredths, and we knew that this would be 10 hundredths, and 1 tenth is equal to 10 hundredths, and so that's what. And so we knew it was equivalent. So we used
I want you guys to record as
this
a table
instead
here.
of that.
Are you listening?
Well, if
I
you
know.
don't know how
I want you
to
guys to record as a table group.
right?
How many units are you used? How many tenths? How many hundredths? I want you to record what you use on this number right here on this as a whole group, so that we can keep track of it. Hey, you guys, as soon as you finish this number 2, I want you to record it on here. So what was the least number of units that you used? How many units did you use? Wait, how many units? 1 unit. How many tenths did you use? 6. How many hundredths? 0. Even though it said 10 hundredths, you traded it in for another 10, right? You're going to record it 1 and 6 right here. And then you're going to move on to this next one. Okay? So nice, right? Okay,
There we go. And then do we go on to the next one?
I'm noticing that you have 1 unit, so you write 1 in the unit place, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the tenths place. How many hundredths do you have? 0. Okay, and then you guys can move on to
Are you forgetting
15
about the
tenths.
next part, Adrian?
And then you can move on to 105 hundredths. So the second is going to be the recorder, so that you're not fighting. Oh, let's go back to this conversation together. Talk to each other about it. Did you guys hear my directions? What's the difference between? Okay. No. Okay. So, are you looking? This is the same sheet that I have up there. I just don't want to interrupt the whole group. So Jesse and Adrian, listen here really quick. Do it. So once you guys agree on the least number of pieces it takes to build these words, 1 unit, 5 tenths, and 10 hundredths, you're gonna record it. So how many units did you guys find out you used? 1. How many tenths? 6. Ah. 6. And then how many hundredths do you have? 0. Okay, and then you're gonna move on to the next one and you're gonna do that. Build it and then record it.
So we did.
Okay. So we've just done the first 2, right? Okay. So we recorded, I think we recorded 1 unit here for the tenths and the 21 hundredths, right? And then 1 tenth and 100. And now you're gonna build you just built 1 unit, 5 tenths, and 10 hundredths. What was the least number of units that you used? How many units? 1. Yep. How many tenths did you use? 6. And how many hundredths? 0. Good. So you're gonna record that. Who's gonna be the recorder for this? Holly. Okay, and then you're gonna move on and do number 3 as a group, number 4, 5, and 6.
And here?
No, right there. On this.